Okay, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another really cool find for you guys from a nice new micro brand called Aloha watches. They were actually just established back in 2018. They are Seattle, Washington based out of the US, but they are a Swiss-made brand when it comes to their timepieces. Now, essentially, they're a micro brand startup with an eye for very clean, timeless designs while promoting the Aloha spirit of unity, being kind, polite, and humble. So, really cool message, and I think a fun kind of background. Definitely check out the links in the description if you want to learn more about the brand from that perspective. But as far as the watch goes, this thing I think is super versatile, and it can, it could fall under, the everyday category, or also a traveler's watch category, of course, because of the GMT functionality. Now, some key common characteristics in design language. You're looking for an everyday watch. You're going to want that's basically a versatile blend of sporty and dressy attributes, which I think this watch really nails. And then, of course, for a traveler's watch, you're going to want that GMT or world time functionality, so you're able to track multiple time zones with relative ease. Now, this particular model is very poignantly named the GMT 40, and this is the blue sunburst model. This does retail for $14.75 and you're buying direct from Aloha. They're actually quite limited, so they don't make a ton of them. Basically, I think this is just their first initial run, and I gotta say I was really impressed. Of course, it's a very simple watch, but I think what they did is they made a lot of the right decisions as far as design and execution goes, and we're really going to delve into the details here now. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. Okay, so as you can see, while we get a closer look here, very quickly, it did come in this really cool kind of leather travel wallet, so I thought that was a really nice touch. Thought I'd go ahead and get that. And I think their actually logo branding is pretty cool, where basically the A's have that closed triangle look. I think it's graphically really quite nice to look at. So cool from a design perspective, and also nice and functional when it comes to traveling with your watch if you're not going to have it right on your wrist. Now, as far as the specs go, this is a 40 millimeter diameter watch, which is just about perfect for most or to any wrist. It's going to have 10.4 millimeters of thickness in the height there, and then it's a 48 millimeter lug to lug. It's made out of full, of course, 316L stainless steel. It's brushed and polished. It does have that beautiful chamfer there, as you can see, that just goes right along the top of the case. And then, of course, it does have also the high polished bezel. So really nice, very simple, guys. I mean, nothing crazy complex about what's going on with this watch, but man, it is clean. Look at that bevel, that chamfer, just the high contrast is beautiful. The signed crown, really nice that they went with the full script. It actually kind of reminds me of some older classic Seikos, where it would just say Seiko across the crown versus throwing the S on there. So I thought that was also a nice touch. And then you can see from this profile here, it's quite handsome, and definitely has that vintage aesthetic there. You can see slightly double domed sapphire crystal. Really nice. I'm loving the way the lugs sweep down and just have a nice slight drop to them. Really nice thinner mid case there because of the movement, which is, of course, the real star of this case back there with the custom rotor. Really nicely done. You can see here, I think, look, it says like this is number 50 or maybe number 5. I'm gonna guess 50. So really handsomely done. You can also see that the strap is from B&R Bands, which we've reviewed on the channel, and if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I buy tons of their bands. So big shout out to them. It looks like they're actually the ones providing this really nice chestnut brown Italian leather strap, which is really nice, and does have a custom fully milled buckle there. Now, very quickly, of course, the bezel is polished and fixed. The crown is polished and screw down. The movement inside is the automatic Swiss-made ETA 2893-2, and this particular one if you take a closer look, you'll notice that it's actually the top grade. So you're going to see all the perlage there. It's going to have blued screws. And the nice thing is actually much higher tolerances as far as timekeeping goes. And not only does this have high tolerances, just from movement standpoint, when somebody's buying this movement, this actually has been regulated to plus or minus 4 seconds a day, which is really great. So you do have a 42-hour power reserve. You have the great 4 hertz sweep, which is 8 ticks per second. And then you do get to look at that nice custom rotor, which I think is a really cool touch there. They didn't have to do that, but it definitely shows that they care. And for a watch at this price point, it's definitely a nice extra selling point. As far as the dial goes, you can see that's the star of the front of this watch and what gives it its great personality. I love that kind of midnight sky look to it because it does have that almost 24-hour scale there. Of course, it's almost like a sun and moon AM PM kind of indicator. I love the way they did the layout for that inner timing ring there for your secondary time zone or your primary time zone, deciding on how you want to set this watch. I think it looks great. It almost looks like little stars peeking across the night sky, which is really great. You can see the way that the light plays off of this dial is just fantastic. Look at that. Just, it's great high contrast dial. It has the dark. The darks are really deep and dark. And then the shimmer of the blue is nice and bright. A lot of the times you'll find some examples where it's not as highly contrasting, or it just reads as a full blue dial with just sunray patterns on it. Here you can see it just drops into deep blacks, super dark midnight blues, and then just those nice high vibrant pops of blue just come through in little slivers, which I think is actually really, really gorgeous, and kind of the best way to do a high-end sunbrush kind of blue dial there, like the way that they did. Now the date is really nicely done at 3 o'clock. As you can see, it does actually have a circular cutout, which again is another nice little feature, something they didn't have to do, but I'm glad that they did because it just makes it feel more complete. It's a really nice attention to detail moment there when you do look at that beautifully done date window there. And then of course it does have the black date disc with the white numeral, so it does look really nice and also fits right into the dial as far as being very low contrast and just blending in. So if you're a big kind of dial aficionado and you prefer no dates because of the symmetry, here you're still going to have a really nice level of symmetry, but you're also going to have the usefulness of that date functionality, which is definitely probably the most useful measurement and complication you can have. Now the dial, the indices are of course all applied. They do have BGW9 Swiss Super Luminova. Since it's a screw down crown, this actually does carry a legitimate 100-meter water resistance, and something that I wouldn't be afraid to not only get wet but actually get submerged because of the screw down crown, of course. Now it has a 20mm lug width, which is perfect. It makes this thing a real strap beast. This is an Italian leather strap here that comes with it. Really great design, very, very handsome. I'm sure you guys have seen these types of straps everywhere. And also even from my channel, you've probably seen this exact strap, but just probably either in a 22 on one of my earlier pilot reviews, I want to say. Really great strap, super comfortable. Of course, this is a review model, so it's already even broken in, which is really great. It's that chestnut brown. It has a 20 to 18mm taper, and it also tapers from thickness from 3mm down to 2mm down on the end there, which really help as far as the wearability go. And then you get a nice look at this really perfectly done custom milled buckle there, nicely finished, and even this piece here is fully milled, which is really outstanding. So let's go ahead and you know what, let's get this piece on. Okay, as you can see on my 7 1/4 inch wrist, works really well. Of course, 40mm without You know, a rotating bezel on a sports watch. Some people would prefer closer to a 38, 38 and a half, 39, whatnot. But I think this wears really, really well. And of course, you can see when I get a little bit more arm into there to give you some idea of proportions. It definitely wears really, really clean. It doesn't feel oversized. Of course, once you get close to the camera lens, it's going to distort a little bit and make it look quite oversized. But I assure you, this wears really nicely. You can see the way that it hugs the wrist. You can also see the way that the strap really nicely wraps around, really molds to the curvature of your wrist really well. Really nicely finished. There's not like, although of course there's an opening here and there's not a bracelet, it's not like, you know, super unfinished. It still has the nice clean machine lines there. And then when you come to that bevel, again, just the way the light dances on it, and also when the light's gone, you can see there's a beautiful negative space that also contrasts really well as the light is lighting up the brushing on the side as well. And then that dial, again, gorgeous. It's just the right amount of blue popping through. So really, really nice. Let's go ahead and move into the Lume shots and low light transition. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights. As you can see, that BGW9 is just pumping away. It looks really, really great. And it, of course, has that nice, cool blue tone. You can also see that your secondary time zone is also glowing. Although, as far as in the dark goes, you're not going to really have point of reference for the 24-hour scale. So it's maybe not going to matter quite as much. But one thing I do like to do, of course, is work in my low light transition shot, because you know, when you're wearing a watch, you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field out in direct sunlight. So the hot studio lights aren't necessarily going to be the most representative of the way the watch is going to look in person, on hand, you know, in hand and on wrist in the metal. Also with that blue dial, you know, it's really going to show you how nice that sunburst is. You see that, again, the darks with the highlight, really beautiful. And then also, if you look at the way the light plays on the brushing, it gives you a nice indication of how uniform that is, and just really the level of quality and the fit and finish that you normally wouldn't be able to read just by looking at a watch. But here you can see really nice. You see those highlights. Of course, this is a review model, so it's a little bit banged up, but you can still see that clean delineation there on that beautiful chamfer. Really nice. Man, this thing is smoking. Look at that. Low light, you can see the way the light just gonna hit that, and that blue is still glowing super proudly. That BGW9 looks absolutely great. All right. So, closing thoughts on the wrist, you know, really classic, perfect proportions, very comfortable, balanced wear. You know, it definitely has the makings of a true strap monster, although I didn't feel the need to switch out any straps with my time that I've had with the watch. As far as model variants go, there's also a black gloss gilt dial option, which is really cool. If you guys are into that, definitely will have more of a vintage vibe. As far as comparable models go, I'd say there's a pretty direct competitor. So this would be like the Fairer GMT, you know, very similar spec and price point, although the movement being also a top grade ETA, but it's not going to be as well regulated at closer to plus or minus 8 seconds versus the plus or minus 4 seconds that you're going to get here. So it is going to, this, of course, this Aloha watch is, I think, like $50 more than the Fairer, but you know, it's also, I'd say, the color play, the design, it's a lot less polarizing. This is something that I think is going to be able to reach a cleaner classic design that 10 years from now is still going to look really, really great, versus some of the more contemporary designs and a little bit bolder color play and material options that you'll see from a brand like Fairer, which obviously are doing pretty well for themselves. But if you're into that and you like that price point, you like that level of quality and whatnot, but you want something that's going to be a little bit more subdued, but at the same time still have tons of personality, still be totally an original watch, I think the Aloha, GMT 40 definitely could be a great choice. Bottom line, it's expensive. Yeah, it's, $14.75. That's not a cheap watch. But when you start thinking about the fact that it's a top grade ETA 2893-2, the level of finishing, of course, it's Swiss made. It has a really nice band. I mean, these bands sell for like 80-90 bucks already. So you can imagine that's adding also a little bit of value there. And of course, if you can dig the aesthetic, it's a great aesthetic, and I think it's also a great message. So I really wouldn't consider this overpriced. I feel like it's priced probably where it could be if you like it, and probably where it should be, because they do believe in their product. So considering that level of spec and execution, it's a very cool and stylish limited piece that also obviously promotes a very positive message of the Aloha spirit. So with all that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like, and if you're not already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.